I do not regret sleeping in until 8 a.m. for the first time in so long. College kids don't know what you have. You don't know. But welcome everybody to the latest edition of the or not summoning hour. Wow, I'm really off my game tonight, or today, this morning,
Sleep,
whatever.
sleepy
Uh,
Joe.
yeah, I
Sleepy,
slept too much.
Sleepy Joe over
Sleepy Joe over here, exactly.
here.
Welcome to Check Your Six this fine Saturday morning. I'm here with my co-host Syntax. How you doing, buddy?
Good, good. I'm doing well.
We've got tons of matches to talk about. There's some updates from CR6's playoffs, Invite League playoffs, as well as CEA's playoffs, and what looks to be the last week and upcoming matches of the FACEIT League's open season, preseason shenanigans before they go into a playoffs or a or a single elimination tournament. So we'll cover some of those matches, just do some predictions, kind of keep it high level. There's some teams that we just don't know anything about, don't know their acronyms, and it's hard to navigate, honestly, on their website. So we'll figure out how we want to talk about that, all that stuff. So we will start. Let's start with CR6. I felt like those were some of the best. Those were the best matches of the week, as well as we have Syntax's and I's bracket picks to go over and see how that held down. Which we're going to save the best match that I got to watch for last because it's also the one that Syntax and I disagreed on. So, or one of the ones that we disagreed on, but probably the biggest one of the week. And my hope is that it's not the best match of the season or of the playoffs, because I hope we get another really good banger matchup going in down into the grand finals. But this might have been the best match of the season so far. So CR6, we've got Michigan State University versus Texas A&M. Now, I chose MSU. You chose Texas A&M as a alumni of there, so you've got your squad playing there. And now first map on Oregon, MSU was on the attack at first. Bans were Thatcher, Habana, Wamai, and Mira. We see Mira showing her head again in the bans, which I know you're pretty disgusted with as a comfort ban.
Yeah. I mean, on Oregon, I can understand a mirror ban. Because with the new reworked Oregon, she is very strong in the basement and she's very strong up top, in the kids' dorms area. So I mean, I can understand a mirror ban on that map.
Okay.
Does it take away any validity and not banning it? I don't know. I mean, everyone, it just depends, right? And
Yeah.
Oregon is kind of one of those coin toss maps, and whether or not someone's going to play mirror correctly, and well on that map. So I understand it.
Fair enough. Now Texas came out strong in the first half, going 3-0 on defense and ending the half 4-2. Which, I mean, when you can take more rounds like that on defense on Oregon, it seems like a really strong position to move into. Like, you have to take full advantage of being on defense on Oregon, and if you're not going to go equal, but especially if you're not going to win a majority of your rounds, that would put you in kind of a dire situation. So, of things, I think 4-2 is probably the best outcome. That's probably also the most common.
Mm-hmm.
But once they switched, MSU would win 5 straight rounds and take the map.
Was that on defense?
Yeah, so in the second half, when MSU would swap to defense, they would essentially go 5-0, or potentially 5-1 if they played it out. But that going 5 rounds on defense just showed that they had a better defensive stand than A&M did, which one round makes the difference all the time.
Yeah, and also on Oregon, if your team is against if you're facing a good team like your own team, if you're not together and coordinated as a team on attack, you're not going to do well. Oregon
Yeah.
is one of those maps where you have to be confident and coordinated in order to have a successful attack round, especially when attacking a site like basement, attacking a site like attic, because when you're attacking attic and basement, you've got to attack from two separate angles and be have a certain level of coordination to be able to attack at the same time and create that kind of a pinch in order to get into the site correctly. Because if you all just throttle in, say the bunker doors in basement, or just the double window in kids, you're going to get mowed down,
Yeah.
because it's such a throttle point. Um, and so you have to attack from two separate angles in order to be successful on it. And so if you're not doing that, you're going to have a bad time, and I think that's probably what happened.
Yeah. Absolutely. I saw a ton of rounds playing through the tunnel, and there were just some great stands being made, and it's two players down there, someone knowing that there's a read on the right, but not knowing that a second player is going to be there. And so as the attacker peeks and is trying to peek on the right and read on the right, the person on the left just comes out and blam, no chance whatsoever, and you've stopped that, you've stalled that entire split approach. And now the approach and just getting into the base is that much harder.
Mm-hmm.
Map 2, Villa, again, MSU on attack first, Texas A&M defending, bans Thatcher, Ace, Wamai, Malusi. And after splitting the half by alternating rounds, so it was just back and forth, 3-3 the entire time, MSU reached map point before dropping a round. So they got 3 more rounds straight. So it was 6-3. Then they lost a round and another round and another round to Texas Tech, allowing them to claw back to a 6-6 overtime, where Texas Tech would take overtime and take the map 8-6, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, dang, you just let that go by the wayside. Hard to believe that they let that MSU would let that lead go. I know swapping sides, you have that effect, and I mean, when you went 3-3 on the attack, you could probably stand to go 3v3 on defense, but then to lose 2 rounds back to back was kind of surprising.
Losing defensive round on Villa is it's not good, because Villa is a very, very heavily defensive sided map, in my opinion, at least, right? From the way I look at it, it's very heavily defensive sided, and if you're not taking those defensive rounds on Villa, you're messing up, because attacking is so much harder. And you have to be able to, if you go into the split 3-3 from defense to attack, you're in an okay position. Now, if you're going from attack to defense at a 3-3 split, you're in a very comfortable position, because obviously, defense on Villa is fairly easy.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think about the vault room and the billiard room defense, and just how scary that can be with all of your operator utility setting up that room, and then just the great, how many spots can you hide in that's hard to get a read on, and that way you can also rotate around and make some great reposition moves if someone's threatening to take those spots. Like, there's just so much you can do with that it's hard to think that they threw that round twice over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, it really does. It happens more often than I think is reasonable, to be honest. Map 3 went to Cafe. MSU decided to defend this time around first, and they closed out the defensive half going 4-2 once again, and basically never looked back. Once they got onto attack, they just went round after round. They dropped one more round to Texas A&M, but then closed the map out 7-3 operator bans on Cafe were Thatcher, Ace, Malusi, and Mira once again. So MSU, Michigan State University, coming out and looking really good. Really good. I mean, they were the 16th seed going up against the 25th seed A&M. And so, I mean, balance of power, it looks right. It sounds right. The fact that even map 2 was so close, they just probably, MSU probably just had a few missteps, and that's just what allowed Texas back in. But 7-3, and then going 5 straight rounds against Texas Tech in Oregon, like that seems like a fair assessment of power. This was really a 16th seed against a 25th seed, and MSU just had more game to play. So Texas Tech is out. MSU continues on to the round of 8, or final 4. My mistake, round of 4. The other matchup that I got to catch, and I updated over Twitter and DMs to Syntax last night as it was going on, and the one that we clashed on, and my personal favorite match of the season, the entire season so far, this is Akron versus Texas Tech. And it was incredible to watch, because one, this was the first time I've seen this season that that another team has taken it to Akron and just given them hell, and that was exactly what I was hoping for. This is the what was it, the 5th seed Texas Tech, 6th seed Texas Tech versus 3rd seed Akron. So we're getting to those high level matchups right now. No upsets. This is the powers that be, the powers that prove themselves in the season. This is where we were supposed to see them. These are the big matchups that you wanted to see. Now, map 1 on Clubhouse, Akron defending first, Texas Tech attacking. Operator bans: Maverick, Thatcher, Cade, Mira. Texas Tech came out fragging. Like, honestly, Akron looked slow, lost at some points, and just got outplayed most of the rounds that I saw. It was clear to me that Texas Tech had been studying Akron and had just really, their play impressed me. It's not just that they studied Akron and all the VODs that they had, but Bates, who is it? Bates, Cantcoot, and Buck. Those 3 really impressed me on Texas Tech.
What really impresses me is just subtle things. You can tell when teams are good when you see the op bands, right? I know I'm going off on op bands, but it says Maverick, Thatcher, Cade, and Mira. So what happened was, the first team banned Maverick, the second team banned Thatcher, but knowing that they banned Maverick and they banned Thatcher, that they weren't going to be able to get hatches no matter what, so they had to go ahead and ban Cade, and then the other team banned Mira. So there's the only acceptable reason why you would ban Thatcher and Cade in the same ban, because they banned Maverick. And so without Thatcher or without Maverick, you're not going to be able to get those hatches open.
Yep.
Right. If you ban Thatcher, so you have to ban Cade on Clubhouse.
Okay. Nice point.
It's very, very, very adaptive of them. So I'm impressed.
There you go. Now, like I said, Texas Tech came out fragging. They took 4 rounds on attack, and it put them in such a great position to just close it out. They closed it out 7-4. And when you can win against Akron by more than 1 round, you're doing something right. Akron just looked like they were on the back foot the entire time. It was bizarre. It was like, honestly, just not seeing that level of domination come from Akron. It just, like, it looked wrong, honestly. Map 2 went to Oregon. Akron would defend again first. Bans were Thatcher, Ying, Malusi, Mira. There was some chat around the Ying ban, some banter back and forth. I forget who it was. I don't think it was Surma on Akron, but he felt a little attacked by the Ying ban. So it was funny to see a little bit of that personality from the teams come out in chat that way. Texas Tech.
Did he take that as a target ban? Is that
Yeah,
what he was mad about?
I think it was Surma. It might have been someone else, but yeah, they were just like, I feel hurt in chat.
Regardless if it was a target ban or not, Ying is actually a pretty acceptable ban on club or on Oregon.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you how many times teams don't expect Ying, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so you can use Ying to a very very high advantage on Oregon. Um, and
What's
so
your
banning, what's up?
What's your favorite approach with Ying?
Um, well, so what happens is what you do is you have someone. So if you're attacking kids' dorms, right? What I'll do is I'll have a teammate breach in through the attic, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happens is there's always a Mira watching from the side. They have a mirror window planted, and they've got the rotate hull so they can watch the attic if anyone drops down that little ledge in the attic,
Yep.
and so they can kill anyone there. What happens is I'll have that teammate get ready on that ledge, and then I'll rappel down. I'll stick a Ying on that window and just Ying the whole room, and then he'll push around
Oh, I see.
and kill that mirror. Because a lot of times, not just the mirror sitting in that room, but there's always somebody else sitting in that room too. So
Mm-hmm.
the Ying doesn't only ban the mirror or blind the mirror; it blinds everyone else in that room.
Yep. Sweet. Solid move. Let's see. We were at map 2, Oregon. So Texas Tech opened up with a 2-0 lead. Akron equalized, and then it was back and forth round after round until it was 6-5 in Akron's favor. So at one point they had to win 2 rounds back to back, but then they still kept trading. And in this one, there's going to be a clip. I'll share it in chat. There it is. Let's see, make sure it goes out. There we go. So this is IMAT's save clutch 1 versus 3 on round, what was that, round 12, to make sure that Akron wins the map. It was just a beautiful 1 versus 3. Now, I know you called out that there was a misplay in there by one of Texas Tech's players, but you can't take away that 1v3 in the basement when all of those operators are right around IMAT, and he just planks 2 of them, single bullet. Just great reads all the way around.
Yeah, it was great reads. It was an incredible play by Akron, but it was also a really bad play by Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Because it was a 3v1, and these guys, because IMAT was there, these guys are sitting there looking around for IMAT, right?
Yep.
All you had to do was sit and hold one angle. It was 3v1. You
And
don't have to go and feed and look for this person, because this person obviously was going to bait you guys.
Yep.
So why would you just feed yourself to him? And then in the last, if you guys are watching the clip, in the last he kills Bait, who I said didn't live up to his name very well. First of all, Bait put himself in a terrible position. Second of all, he didn't even have. I don't remember how many seconds were left on the clock when he killed Bait, but he did not have to peek that, and he chose to. If you're last
At the
alive,
start of it, there was about 30 seconds, and so
so
I believe that IMAT took out the last player with about 15 seconds left.
yeah, literally all Bait had to do was he was in a bad spot, right? So as his other teammates were dying from peeking, all he had to do was run to Freezer Stairs and just hold an angle, because that whole wall was open.
Mm-hmm.
All he had to do was sit there and run and hold an angle,
And I mean,
and not show himself.
yeah, and they knew where he was at. They had the diffuser down, and it seemed like they were. I didn't get the sense that they were rotating to get together. It seemed like they were all rotating to try and pick him off, to be the one to frag out and close the map
Yes,
or close the round.
that's exactly what they were doing.
And it was the pressure to tie, the pressure, because that was 6-5 in Akron's favor. They had a 3v1. They felt the pressure to close the round so that they could go 6-6 into overtime. And up to that point, that 6-5 round, up to that point, I thought Texas Tech was going to pull it out. Had it gone to overtime, I have a feeling that Texas Tech would have won that map and 2-0'd Akron, which would have been upset of the season, playmaker of the season. I would have been, holy crap, Texas Tech slept on the whole season type situation. But I feel like that pressure just got to them.
I think, I think Tech just in that last moment, either one, they were getting hungry and selfish, or two, they were just not situationally aware of like the actual big picture here. They were focused more too much on their own situation than killing the last person alive, rather than realizing, hey, it's a 3v1 with 30 seconds left. We don't have to move.
Yep.
And they just threw that out the window. Yeah.
And homie Migs joined us in chat again. Same with Lucho Oven. Thank you guys for coming in. Homie Migs calls out Jet playing out of his mind this series. Yeah, Jet absolutely impressed me on the Akron side of things. He was just a beast round after round, and it felt like there was a number of rounds that Akron won solely because of Jet's play. Now, I mean, Akron plays as a team, but when so many rounds were going out of control or going towards Texas Tech's favor, it seemed like Jet was the one who pulled them back into favor a lot of rounds. Like, Imat was not the star of this series as he has been in previous ones, though that clip shows you why Imat is always dangerous. But Jet really came in and held that series together. Rookie of the year, absolutely, from Urine. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. YR3NE. I don't know how to pronounce that. 3.
Wyrene or something like that.
Wyrene, maybe. Map 3 went to Cafe once again. Akron attacked first this time. Texas Tech defended. Op bands being Thatcher, Maverick, Wamai, Mira. Akron opened map 3-0 to lead, but it was short-lived as Texas Tech would come back 3 rounds of their own and equalize the half. And the series deciding map would go into the second half. Who could win 4 rounds first? But once again, once Akron got on defense, it looked like there was no going back. Akron finally started playing like I've seen them play throughout this season, and they ended the map 7-4. So the fact that after having such a rough start and losing map 1, having a really difficult time closing out map 2, to then keep Texas Tech to 1 round in that second half and then pull it together to be a convincing win, 7-3 or 7-4, that shows me that maybe they feel a little more comfortable on Cafe, or that they finally woke up. It didn't feel like they were on the back foot as much. It didn't feel like they were getting outplayed, outgunned. It just felt like they'd finally warmed up and come into the map. They knew what they had to do, or they realized how much of a threat Texas Tech was, which I'm not sure if they really understood how much of a threat they were up to that point. So Akron continues on to the Final Four, where they will be playing Purdue. Unfortunately, I don't have any stats on that map. I couldn't find any VODs or links or social media updates. So Purdue, 2nd seed overall, taking out the 10th seed Ohio State University varsity team. That caught both of us off guard in our bracket picks. And I believe we thought it was homie Migs calling it out in chat last week, saying everybody's sleeping on Purdue. And you're right, man. We slept on them. We had no idea who they were, where they're coming from, what happened. And Purdue offering up a potentially better matchup than the Texas Tech one, as it's the 2nd seed overall versus the 3rd seed Akron. That's going to be a matchup to catch and watch the stream every round of that series. Now, the other matchup that we didn't get to see and couldn't find really any updates on was Cal Esports versus University of Georgia Red Squad. UGA, and UGA took out Cal Esports. Now this was a 12th seed versus 13th seed, so it was going to be really close one way or another. But UGA being Syntax's pick, Cal being mine. This is the other series that I lost the pick on. So to break it down, I had MSU, Syntax had A&M, MSU won. So woo woo, 1-0 me. Cal Esports lost to UGA. Syntax had UGA. I had Cal Esports 1-1, looking pretty good there. We had both chosen Ohio State to take out Purdue, and we both slept on Purdue, so 1-2, still tied between the two of us. And down to that final matchup, Akron versus Texas Tech. Syntax chose Texas Tech, and it was very close, but your man Warlock had our Akron once again, had their back, and goes up 2-2 in this bracket pick 'em up to this point. So as you think about Purdue versus Akron and MSU versus UGA, what are your picks?
I'm gonna go with UGA.
Yep. Okay. UGA. So we got UGA 12th seed over 16th seed Michigan State. Sounds about right. I could see that. I'm still gonna go with well, yeah, I'm still gonna say Michigan State. I've been impressed with their play over and over. Now they're gonna learn from a lot of the mistakes that they made against A&M, but I think Michigan is gonna be great. Wanda Swan won. I swear to God, recall what did I do?
Yeah, he's a Georgia player.
Oh, he's a Georgia. I'm sorry. How many teams do we need to slam? I mean, okay. Let's go back to the bracket. I'll defend myself here. Let's see. UGA versus Georgia Tech. Honestly, 14-0 against Cal? Well, okay, let me back up. Okay, Georgia Tech, okay, 21st seed. I'm not going to think much about Georgia Tech, honestly. CSULB, they have slid so far from last season that, yeah, they're 5th seed here, but they just do not look as impressive. Their losses were heavy losses, and you beat them. 12th seed over 5th seed. Yeah, you are an impressive squad, but CSULB has slid in consistency and just the overall performance what I've seen. And Cal Esports, let's see, Cal beat Boise State, up-and-coming team, unproven. This is the first time Boise's looked really competitive and made it into an invite league or Premier League. And Cal Esports, I've just never really thought much of them, honestly. Like, but their performance against Central Missouri, who really shocked me with some of their matches across leagues, that's what gives me more hope in Cal Esports because, yeah, that matchup alone. Then now it's Cal versus UGA. I honestly also just haven't seen you play. I haven't seen a UGA match. I don't even need to see you beat Akron. I don't need to see you beat Akron. You beat MSU, I'll give you the clout. But when you look at the other side of the bracket where MSU is coming from, Northeastern, Ohio State Gray, the JV squad, Mississippi State, University of Montreal, St. Clair, UTSA, and Texas A&M, and MSU is the one standing on top of that side of the bracket, that is a much, much better looking side of the bracket. In terms of previous history and everything, MSU coming out on top of that as kind of a rookie squad even, because Michigan was not on the map last season, just not there. They were all down in the open league. Yeah, UGA, you've been consistently competitive. And this year, I think you've looked your best in terms of overall performance. So this is going to be a great match. Don't get me wrong. I also just want to disagree with Syntax. That's the other point. I want to make our bracket pick'ems interesting. So Cal overrated back-to-back semesters. I think you're right. I honestly think you're right. So we'll see how this breaks out. But MSU, UGA, I'm going to back up MSU. You beat
On
MSU, and you can. I mean, then you look at the other side of the other side of the bracket. Purdue and Akron. I admit I slept on Purdue. I wrong on that front.
One thing I didn't realize is
What's that?
I didn't look at it until today. Purdue's seed number 2. I didn't realize they were
Yeah.
seed number 2.
Purdue is seed number 2, and yeah, and we've had multiple people like Homie Miggs called it out last week saying we slept on Purdue. Purdue has been creeping up there. I mean, who has Purdue taken out? SHASU, 31st seed, no big deal there. Kennesaw State, longtime competitive team. Ohio State had taken out Iowa Gold and CGC UIC. So I mean, again, a scrappy squad, but Ohio State varsity 10th seed. But one thing, like Ohio State, St. Clair, all of them, that Northern Division was just so competitive. So you can't just look at the power rankings, but Purdue, number 2, is there for a reason.
Yeah. I'm going with Purdue.
And honestly, after Akron's last performance against Texas Tech, I would be lying if I didn't say I had doubts about their performance. And you know what? I'm going to go with it. I'm going to say Purdue's going to win this. I'll agree with Syntax on this. Purdue's going to win versus Akron. Akron needs to show up. And if it comes up that they're playing against another highly competitive squad, they may not be. They might have been so accustomed to just dominating their matches that when they get to a really good squad, it might, like, I don't know if they're scrimming. I don't know if they're still doing like those Challenger League scrims that they've been looking at. Like, I don't know how much more competitive they've been as opposed to previous years. Homie also said weeks ago that they were looking better than ever. This last matchup against Texas really cast some doubts on that, even though they've been overperforming the weeks prior. Purdue, I just don't know enough about, but yeah, Akron's last performance gives me some hesitation on whether or not they can pull off something against a team that's considered even higher.
Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily think that Akron needs to show up. More or less than each team better do their research before going into this match.
Yeah.
Both teams have proven themselves to be very strong. I think it comes down to who does their research. So
yeah. How many people ban Mira?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Purdue also, but I think we're going to have the split at MSU Green and UGA this time around. So sorry, Wanda Swan. Prove it to me here. You beat MSU Green, and UGA is going to have a much higher standing up in my head. Now, we'll see. We'll just see.
Don't worry, Juan. I believe in Georgia. You guys better win. Don't make me look stupid.
I mean, this goes back to my preference for the divisions. Northern is the strongest. I think Northern is the strongest division overall, and MSU is coming from there, which seeds them lower because there's so many good teams in the Northern Division. But then also UGA coming from, I don't believe it was the Gulf Coast. I think they were Southern. I think they were Southern. Were you guys Southern or Gulf Coast in CR6? Let me know. But I mean, for them to rank higher, to me, it says that they are, MSU Green is coming in from Southern. Okay, so that gives me some more room to pause. They were originally miscategorized. Oh, interesting. So that plays a role. But I'm going to stick with MSU. But I'm sticking with MSU, but I do believe that the northern divisions are stronger than southern. I think it's a little bit of a toss-up, probably a 60-40 split between northern and Gulf Coast squads. Texas Tech, very impressive, but St. Clair, Akron, Ohio State, the University of Montreal, those were just scary, scary teams, and they were all lumped into one. So that's where I stand on that. Now, we've done a lot of CR6 discussion. Let's move on to CEA, which we've got FIU versus CU Boulder, which was a really impressive stand for me from CU Boulder Black. Now, let's get into the matches. Map 1 on Villa, FIU versus CU Boulder. First positions, FIU attacking, Boulder defending. Boulder ended up winning 7-4.
It was bands.
Yeah, Lucho is saying a throw. It was
you guys did really well.
I mean, FIU is FIU. Last season in CRSL, they were the only team to take, and I believe actually across all three leagues, CR6, CRSL, and CEA, that FIU was the only team to take win a series against Akron. So FIU kind of showed up a little scary this season, seeing what they could do. I don't know how much their roster changed though, but Boulder has had consistency problems this season, and it started off early, and it seems like they started getting better in the later part of the season and moving into the playoffs. Like the fact that CU Boulder took a map off of Madison Red was impressive in my mind. Beating Rutgers was kind of a done deal. But I could see why Lucho's saying that it was entirely winnable, just given how it breaks down to a 2-1, and the last map, just a heartbreak right there. But map 1, 7-4 for CU Boulder, Bands, Thatcher, Thermite, Valkyrie, Mira. Map 2 onto Cafe, FIU wins 7-4. Thatcher, Jackal, Mira, Valkyrie, the Bands. Lucho saying they had zero strats going into this season. I mean, that's the deal. You lose a number of players, and you have to you have to rebuild your entire playbook. And then you have to hope that you have those same players going on to the next season or into the next year. Even the summer, especially this last summer with the breakout of COVID, really complicated things and made challenges for students in different ways. So 1-1 going into map 3. FIU attacked first on Coastline, Jackal, Ace, Valkyrie, Mira, the Bands, and it goes into overtime. Ugh. And FIU just clutches the overtime 8-7. Definitely a heartbreaker, a hard-fought loss for CU Boulder, and for them to even take it to overtime with the squad that they have with zero strats at the beginning of the season, and to go this far to take it to, the round 2 in the losers bracket, and be one round away from semifinals, the top 4 teams, like that, it's still an impressive run. So we can look forward to CU Boulder being a late game player in next season in the spring. I'll be excited to see how they do there, and see how even the FACEIT preseason looks for them. So we'll get a better sense of how they grow over the winter and into the spring season. So that was a good matchup. I'm sorry, Lucho, that it felt like it was a throw, but I enjoyed watching it and just kind of catching up on some of the highlights of it. Last but not least, Akron versus Michigan Technological University. Once again, Akron comes in, and this is the Akron I expected against Texas Tech. Now, maybe MTU is just that much weaker of a team. Maybe Akron just had the read on them the entire time. But Akron, map 1 on Clubhouse, 7-1. Map 2, MTU took it 7-4, so it was close. And then Coastline 7-3 in Akron's favor. I mean, those are the map readouts that I'm used to seeing from them. And so Akron continues on. That puts them into the finals. They will play, let's see, and I don't have a read on Madison Esports Red versus Pennsylvania State University. So if somebody's got that, I'd like to know. But the fact that FIU will be playing the winner of that matchup, and then MTU will be playing the winner of FIU versus that match. Man, so potentially got Madison Red, Pennsylvania, and FIU and MTU in the bottom, making a run through the losers bracket, and then playing Akron. So we've got at least 2 matchups ready to go. That should be a 3-map series. We don't like her on coast. Yeah. Okay. So there's more Mira discussion in chat, which is good. Syntax is going to get to the root cause of this Mira epidemic in collegiate Rainbow Six bannings.
There has to be a root cause to this, and I'm gonna figure it out.
Syntax is going to go coach the entire collegiate scene. No banning Mira, or very specific situations rather.
Yeah.
Last but not least, we have the FACEIT League. Now I've pulled up all of the upcoming matches. We're going to breeze through these just to go quick. Let's see. I've got all 26 groups with the upcoming matches. There's 1 or 2 matches per group, so we'll go quickly through this. Norwich versus Trine in Group A. No real read on those teams. UIC versus Northeastern. That's going to be a really good one. Northeastern was the 32nd seed in CR6's Invite or Premier League, and UIC was 20-something, I think. UIC was 23rd. So good matchup there. That'll be happening in a couple days, about 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So on the 9th, Iowa State versus Illinois State. That's going to be a really good one. They've played each other a couple times now this season. Yeah, I agree, Lucho. The FACEIT groups are a joke, but we still have some matchups from teams that we do know that are good. I'm really hoping FACEIT takes the critique from the players that these groups are messy, unorganized, unrealistic. So I hope that they take that feedback when it comes to the spring season, when it's their real competitive season as opposed to the preseason. Yeah, like Homie Miggs is saying, Iowa State versus Illinois State. Yeah, casual based on the semester. Well, I mean, I buy that and I don't. Yes, it's casual based on the semester because they want the spring to be highlighted, but they're not practicing what that spring season is going to be looking like. And as a producer, as someone who likes to prepare and minimize risk, and in esports where you have to consider the competitive integrity of your league and set yourself up for the best success, setting up a league like this to practice your tech like this is not the way, I think. I can show you the way, but this is not the way. Carnegie Mellon versus UC San Diego. I could see that being a stand-up match. UNC Charlotte versus Cincinnati Red. I think I favor Charlotte over Cincinnati, but it should be a good matchup all the way around. Manoa versus Elan. I'm looking forward to that one. Purdue versus Southern Arizona. Purdue likely going to stomp Southern Arizona, but a good test, a good scrim for Southern Arizona to learn something. Nova Nighthawks versus ASU. ASU kind of fell down a little bit. This is Nova's opportunity to step up a little bit, learn a lot. Wait, sorry. Was there? Oh, sorry, not. No, it's Kettering versus another JWU. I don't know who that is. Let's skip that one. Kennesaw versus RIT. That should be a fairly competitive matchup. CSULB versus Humber. CSULB has a lot to kind of recuperate, and I think Humber is an appropriate opponent for them in Group G. Multiple groups later, we still don't have another good matchup. 6 groups later, still not another good matchup. FACEIT Armada versus Boston. I think Boston has that plain and simple, but Full Sail. They're kind of like Maryville Jr. And Robert Morris Jr. They're starting to, like, they have their arena. They have a great coach, very vocal in the scene, or director in the scene, but I haven't seen them make those competitive moves yet to get those really highly competitive players on their squads. UGA Red versus Cornell. Pretty sure UGA just has this one in the bag. See, I can choose UGA Wanda Swan. I can do that. I think that's St. Mary's versus Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State in the bag. MSU Green versus Ottawa. Green, hands down. Boulder versus Sam Houston JV. Lucho, you got to tell me you got that one. Should feel good about that one, I think. Most of the, now that I'm really looking at these and not just trying to get ready for the podcast, like, a lot of these matchups are just so one-sided or just full of unknown teams. It's exciting to see so many new teams come in. Lucha Olvin agrees that CU Boulder's got that matchup. There's so many unknown teams here that the teams that have been participating in CEA and CR6 and even CRSL last season, they have such an advantage going into FACEIT because they know exactly who they're going to face. They have years of VODs, multiple matches of VODs going up against their opponents. And if they're not one of those squads that's in I lost my train of thought, read chat. But if the squads that are just joining FACEIT because it's now FACEIT, it just doesn't ring true that these are competitive teams. Yeah, there's not really many other matchups that I can even really call out that would be interesting to watch or try and keep track of. I feel really bad for Miami-Dade because they're going to be playing Akron. UBC versus UMBC, that might be something to watch. GCU versus another U of A Bears, it looks like. Sorry, U of A. GCU is just going to stomp. New York Tech versus UNT, that could be an okay matchup, low mid-tier kind of map. Let's talk about this. FACEIT's biggest problem, since they advertised a lot of schools created teams to compete with no prior experience, are full of low golds and silvers, no sense of competition. And this is exactly my problem with the preseason. They are setting up all of these low golds, silver squads randomly, and you're getting them matched up against Charger Blue, Akron, Georgia, St. Clair, CU Boulder, Oklahoma State, Boise State, Boston. You're getting all of these squads who are just going to get obliterated, or like 9 times out of 10 obliterated.
Okay, here's where I disagree with this whole logic. Regardless of the team's individual ranks, it's still a competition.
It is,
right? And so, no matter who you if you believe that you're going to win, no matter who you get put up against, you should be confident you're going to win, right?
Yeah, the teams will be, but look at what Homie is saying, that because FACEIT advertised, colleges or these clubs are building squads and they're coming in, and FACEIT has not organized the league in a way to give them the best chance. Like, none of the FACEIT and all these other leagues provided all of this data frontwards towards Ubisoft and by association FACEIT about how good these schools are, about how
But
good some of these. And so this preseason, if they wanted to set it up so that schools are getting used to scheduling your matches, reporting in on FACEIT, let them know, let them learn the logistics. At least pair them up against schools that are going to be competitive. Like, have some good matchups, show off your league in the best light. And for the teams that don't have a competitive history, let them play other teams without a competitive history so that you can at least have a hope of learning something, as opposed to getting stomped by teams like Texas Tech versus University of North Dakota.
here's where here's my my theory. This I believe this preseason might be them gathering that info on where to place people, right? Um, so I think maybe in the main season you're going to see a little bit more accurate matchups because of this whole preseason where everyone got matched and who beat who and what kind of skill they have and some of that stuff. Because what else would be the point of a preseason, right? If you're going to have a main season, I think might be the preseason might be to get a better idea of how to seed teams, and how to do matchups. Yeah, there might be a prize for the preseason, but it, tomatoes. You know, the real competition comes down, or the real prize pool comes down to the main season. So, but also, Homie Mix saying in the rec league, which is I'm assuming is part of FACEIT as well, a team
Yeah.
got pulled out of the rec league because they had a diamond player.
Or another team pulled out of the recreational league because another rec league team had a diamond on it.
Oh, what team? Okay, so this diamond player caused another team to pull themselves out of the rec league.
Yeah.
Wow. That just tells me you don't want to get better, right? That they want to play people of their same skill level, and they want to stay at that same skill level forever. How do you want to be competitive if you don't want to play against better people?
So, and I just looked this up in the rule set. The inaugural season will not be seeded. So they're not gathering data, or they may be gathering data on this preseason, but it's not going to be in effect until next year's spring season. Unless they decide that the fall season isn't another preseason.
That might make more sense because, you know, obviously you'll need a bigger sample size in order to get a better representation of all the schools, right? So that might be the reason that they're having this inaugural season, is to get all that kind of information. They're trying to get I think what they're trying to do is they're advertising it so much is because they're trying to get all the schools in, as many schools in as possible, so they can gather as much data as they can, so they don't have as many schools just like randomly joining throughout these next couple seasons.
And I mean, yeah,
Sam Houston just forfeit.
Sam Houston JV just forfeited. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, and when in the preseason, that this isn't the rec league. This is the preseason to the competitive league, and you have teams just forfeiting. There's clearly some value for the teams that are being missed. This preseason, to me, feels like it is set up for FACEIT to learn how they're going to produce this content. They're not treating the teams with much integrity or respect. Like, I don't know how much you all have been reached out to by FACEIT to be like keeping an open communication. I don't know how active the FACEIT Discord is, but it just seems like it was thrown into their laps, and they've had the summer to figure it out, or part of this, only a limited amount of the summer to figure it out. They constantly take feedback. Okay, so that's good. They're taking feedback. But yeah, I just have to really. I mean, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. They're sorting out what teams belong in rec league, what teams belong in the competitive league. The teams themselves are figuring out they're forfeiting in the competitive league. Maybe they belong more in the rec league. You've got the rec league people bowing out because there's too competitive people because they have good people on their teams. I mean, the skill level of the player doesn't represent the intent of what that player is trying to do. Rec league is going to be for fun. If you want that national glory and whatever prestige, go play in the competitive. But the teams that are also in the rec league have to understand that.
Like imagine being so afraid of one player that you pull your entire team out of the league.
Yeah. That seems silly. I mean, think about intramural leagues on college campus. There's always the squad of football players on the football team playing flag football. Like, and yeah, they're probably going to dominate, but your intent is to go out there and have fun.
Yeah.
To go out there and, I mean, some teams are going to be competitive, but it's also meant to be for fun. If you want to be competitive, go play somewhere else. This happened week 1, legit lasted 1 week. Oh boy. Yeah, so I mean, I hope that the collegiate rules for FACEIT are updated every 5 minutes. So I'm going to have to pore over this and see what they have changed. It looks like they changed something as of the 23rd. So conference adjustments have been made based on previous feedback. They don't go into itemized breakdown of that. So what states report to which of the 4 conferences, that's been updated a little bit: East, South, Central, and West. It looks pretty straightforward. East is just stacked with teams, but they're taking into a lot of the Canadian towns and districts that seem to make up the brute force nature of how many more were added there. But yeah, that's just a breakdown of Canada. So, I mean, otherwise, it looks fairly balanced from a conference perspective or from a state-by-state basis, but it's going to be interesting to see how that breaks down in terms of competition. I worry that, like, let's see, it's going to be a 6-week Swiss matches based off of groups. That's not going to be seeded. So my concern here is that the preseason groups is representative of the groups we're going to get in the actual season, and yikes, like the competition just isn't going to be there. You're going to have to wait 6 weeks to get the top team from each of the groups into the playoffs and then start seeing good matches. So it just depends on the content that FACEIT can make from the matches during the season and how well they can publicize that. Because I think any one of us who are sitting in chat or doing this podcast, we're going to go, okay, you hyped up the 132nd team versus the 128th team. You made that look competitive and good, but how are you going to translate what a great matchup is versus just doing the standard content creation and hype? I really hope that the production level raises this league, because the organization of it and the competition thus far just seems misorganized, and like their priorities are less on the formation of these groups and the level of competition in the competitive season, as opposed to focusing on the teams and focusing on the competitive integrity of the league. Like, they are still figuring out foundational needs for their league. That's what it feels like to me.
Mm-hmm.
So good discussion. I hope to hear more. Let's make it a point to talk more about FACEIT feedback. I'll do a dive into the Discord, see how people are feeling, see what's going on there, and have a better read on it next week. And we will probably also be wrapping up, or getting close to wrapping up, some of the playoffs. We'll at least know who's in the finals for both CEA and CR6, and look forward to those matchups coming up. But next week, I think we will also do some study and understanding of FACEIT a bit more. So maybe we'll see if we can get a guest from FACEIT to talk about things. So I know we've been critical of it. I think it's just because all of us in chat and Syntax and I really just want it to be a league that means something, considering how they came into the scene. So make sure that everyone sacrifices and reads after the FACEIT announcement during the summer doesn't leave a bad taste in everyone's mouth about the scene. Any last thoughts, chat or Syntax?
No, not really. I think we pretty much touched on everything today.
Yeah. All right. Chat, we'll give you about 30 seconds while I do the sign off and the follow up. So if you enjoy the podcast, feel free to subscribe at anchor.fm/checkyour6. Now, you don't have to always listen to it through anchor.fm. That is just where I'm hosting it. There's like 8 other sources that you can get this podcast from, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the big names, and many others as well. So feel free to subscribe there. You can also leave messages for Syntax and I for the podcast to play on the podcast and discuss your feedback, your comments, all of that by going to anchor.fm/checkyour6 with the numeral 6/message, and you'll be able to record up to a 1-minute message for us where we will take it onto the stream, take it onto the podcast, and talk through your comments. So we would love your feedback that way. Also, you can look forward to the next podcast being around 10 o'clock, maybe 10:30, depending on if I get to sleep in again for the first time or the second time in almost a decade. 10:30 is about our start time. We'll get more consistent as I get better at this game. So look for us next Saturday as well, and in the weeks to come while the fall seasons are wrapping up. Outside of that, you can find me on all social media platforms at Warlock Recall, and our buddy here, Syntax, at SyntaxGG, everywhere except for Twitch, which is Syntax_GG. Any last messages, buddy, Paolo mine?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm good.
All right, let's go MSU. Wanda Swan, I apologize once again. Prove me wrong, and show UGA should be on the top, should be more highly respected than I have considered you all. Looking forward to it. I will see you all next week, and thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us in chat, and we will talk soon. Later, everybody.